I think some of the next jobs I'm going to be getting on with are a lot of tree felling. A lot of tree felling. Happy New Year, folks.
Hi, happy
Good morning. Hope everyone out there is doing well. It's a beautiful sunny day here in northeast Scotland. First sunny day I think we've seen in a long time.
Just like waking up for the Christmas period.
Yeah, still getting our New Year hat on, 2021. Let's hope it's going to be a bit of a better year. But beautiful day to go for a walk, and we just thought we would take you along today. As we haven't made a vlog this year so far. Well, we're only a few days in, aren't we?
Yeah.
What is it? It's the 6th today, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Not too bad.
I'm just going to get the goats for milking. It's all changed a bit because Heather stopped jumping up on our higher stanchion. So I just had to change the levels of them. So for a while we were milking them one by one, but now I've got back to milking them together again. So yeah, I'll just go and get them. Okay, baby, is your breakfast? There you go, good girl. There you are. Boop. Okay, hello. Good morning. Yep. Yeah. Heather is so strong. She's like...
Big goat.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, good girl. Not that one. This one, remember? Come on. Ah! I'm still getting them used to the swap around because Heather used to jump up on there and now she comes on here, which I did make higher up, so she has to jump on here, but I need her collar on. Yes, you're not meant to do that. I know you know this. Right, come on in. Right. Up, up, up. Good girl. See, look how much effort to jump. Well done. Very good. And so now this stanchion is a half of the height that it was before, and took the legs off and put them on there, so that's actually taller than the other one now. But Heather just completely changed her mind, and now she wanted to be milked over here, so we had to shift it all around, which was more stressful than it sounds, but yeah, now it's sorted out, so I can milk them at the same time, well, one after the other again, quite easily. Alright. You kind of sit on the side. So yeah, the two goats, these guys are producing about 100 millilitres less than they were probably last time I talked about the amounts that they're milking. So Heather makes just under 2 litres, and so does Helly, just under what Heather makes. So we get basically about 3.7 litres a day from these girls. So yeah, still really good and still able to make some cheese. Mandy and P are both dried off now. And we might be getting Mandy and Kid, so that will be good to get her milking again as well next year. So yeah, no, the milking's going really well. It's totally fine with being hand milked now after all the drama at the start.
Really?
So my hands are definitely stronger than they ever were, because obviously I'm milking more a day than I used to. It's a full bucket rather than half a bucket. And at this time of year, it definitely makes a huge difference when you have cold hands to do quite a lot of quick exercise with them. So yeah, it can be quite taxing on your hands actually milking in winter, but they do warm up after a while.
This is you at nearly 3 years of milking goats now.
Oh my god, I should be really good at it, shouldn't I, by now? Yeah, 3 years every day, other than a few days, yeah, milking goats. It's definitely, you know, a really peaceful, lovely time where you get to think about the day ahead. So I do really enjoy it, aside from the milk at the end of it, the actual event of it. As long as no buckets are kicked or goats having issues that you have to deal with. But when it goes smoothly, which is 98% of the time, it's just such an enjoyable way to start the day. That's why I prefer hand milking, really, to machine milking. But I know if we had a lot more goats, I don't think I'd be able to hand milk more so easily. One thing that's really amazed me with having these 2 new goats is to realise that all 4 goats have really different udders, and their teat shape is completely different. So you have to milk them all in a different style. But even with Heather here, you can see she has a really large udder. From the back it almost looks like a cow. And that actually mostly isn't the kind of milk. It's basically just the glands and things that make up most of the space here. And it's just these bottom bits that seem to contain the milk. Whereas on Helly, her udder looks smaller, but it's actually, when you empty it, it looks a lot more empty. So I'm amazed how different the structure of them seems to be to each other. Okay, well done, Heather. Good girl. 1.9. Go. There you go.
We have to keep Oren inside while Rose is doing the milking because he scares the goats. We had a full bucket of milk kicked over right at the end of Rose's milking session when Oren managed to get out and into the milking parlour. So we don't want that to happen again. Yeah, we keep him inside until I'm ready to do some of my chores, and then I take him with me. I'm just coming back into the byre. Hey girls, where Mandy and P are still. Like Rosa was saying, Mandy and P have been dried off. We've got P in her own area due to some health problems that are still persisting. So we've got her isolated, which I think she's really enjoying, having her own little compartment and water and food that she doesn't have to share. And then of course Mandy is just in here with the other two girls. So yeah, just getting some hay for the sheep. I like to give the sheep a little bit of hay in the morning, especially with the snow on the ground. But just a little bit. I think they can still find quite a lot of food out there. They're pretty tough, these Shetland sheep. But it's still nice to give them a bit of nourishment. Right, wee boy, we're gonna go this way. Come on then, Oren. Yeah, come on. Come. Gotta jump over this ditch that we've got now, which I'll tell you guys about in a minute or two. So we had a really lovely Christmas, a little bit quieter than usual because of COVID, but luckily I still was able to have my daughter with us, which would have been very sad if she hadn't been able to make it over to stay with us. Having a white Christmas was so special, especially for my wee girl. It made Christmas even more magical for her. It went by very quickly. We ate a lot, we drank a lot, and tried to rest as much as possible. But now the new year is here, it's time to get our heads back into farming mode. I mean, they're never really off farming mode, but we do try and take things easier at Christmas, and with my wee girl around, we definitely get a little less done, but that's partly down to wanting that. So yeah, time to get our farming heads back on. Thinking of all the things that we want to get done this year, all the plans that we've got. We've got a lot of things up our sleeves that we want to get done, from what might seem a bit boring stuff like fencing, to stuff that really excites us, like more tree planting, more food forests, more forest gardens. We're thinking about building a barn, trying to get that organised. We're looking into having accommodation on site for a bit of ecotourism, plus carrying on with our CSA and our veg box scheme. So yeah, it feels good to be back outside into January 2021 and carrying on with the work involved here at Noth Farm. Alright, so I'm up at the sheep. We've got the sheep up in the north field at the moment. We put them up here maybe a month ago, maybe not quite a month yet, but they love it up here. They've got a very large field full of trees and natural areas to take cover from the rain and snow. Come on then, sheep! Come on, sheep! Come on, girls! Here they come. Come on then! Come on, sheep! Come on then! There's Christina. She's always first. Good girls, hey? Come on then. Come on, sheep. There we go. There's Sana. Good girls. And Belinda coming in there. Our three little Shetland sheep. Yeah, so it's a really great spot for them up here in the north field. We brought them up here when we knew that there was going to be some snow coming. Before that they were in the west field, which doesn't have any shelter. And while these girls are very hardy and can tolerate low temperatures, we thought it was only fair that they could at least get out of driving rain and wind and any snow that was coming. And the snow did come. So they're here in the north field where there's some lovely stands of pine trees that make a natural shelter for them to take cover in. They've got access to water. We bring them water, but there's also a small stream that runs through this field that they can drink from. And on the whole, there's still quite a bit of forage for them when there's not snow on the ground. Everything from raspberry canes to pine trees to some grass that's still growing. They're getting much better at coming when I call them now, as you saw. So bringing them the hay like this just keeps up human interaction. It'd be quite easy to stick them up in this back field and kind of forget about them for a few months. So I still like to come up every day or twice a day and give them some hay and just get them used to me. Still haven't managed any sheep cuddles yet, but you know, that's all right. Alright, that's them happy. Time to carry on, go and see the birds. So we haven't filmed since the poultry went into lockdown. So in the UK, for almost the last month, we've had a compulsory lockdown of all poultry due to an outbreak of avian flu, mostly down in England. I think there's been one case in Shetland in the far north of Scotland. Come on, Oren. This unfortunately means that the government has made it a law to have all poultry undercover, so away from the wild birds. That means keeping contact from your chickens with wild birds and also their food and water. So it's a real shame. We hate this. This happened a couple of years ago, I think 2016. We had to keep the hens in for a few months. And it's just a real shame, you know, these birds that are very much used to being in an organic, free-range system suddenly have to be contained. I mean, to be honest, we put our hens in the polytunnel last year because we wanted to import more fertility into the polytunnel, and it was a very large polytunnel, so we're lucky to be able to do that. So again, we've put our larger flock of hens into the polytunnel, and we've got our chicks, which were hatched last year, in our small polytunnel. The geese are in a covered cage that we used to have as a duck run. That's almost the hardest. They're the hardest ones to think about, are the geese, because they really are used to free ranging around a large amount of the farm every day, on the whole going where they please, eating a lot of grass, and now suddenly they're in a cage system. And you know, this is just not what we're about here at Noth Farm. Our form of agriculture that we support really looks at giving animals as much room and space and allowing the animals to live in a natural way as possible. And because of the avian flu that has obviously had an outbreak in what I imagine to be a large intensive operation for poultry, which of course is the complete opposite of what we do here and what we want to promote from here, it sucks really that because of that industry, the whole nation of poultry keepers, whether you're organic, free range, whatever, have to comply to all the same rules, and we all get put into lockdown. But like the humans, because of course we're in another lockdown for COVID at the moment. I think that just started a couple of days ago, so we'll see how that affects us as a family and farm, and of course on a wider scale as a community and nation. So yeah, the chicks, as I said, are in this small polytunnel which we've got at the back of our house. This was where we grew tomatoes last year for the CSA. There's only 6 chickens in here, so it's actually quite a decent amount of space for them, and they've got lots of mulch and straw to scratch around in. We just have no idea how long this poultry lockdown is in place for. It could be months, and that's going to be difficult if this goes into spring, and we need to use these polytunnels, of course, for our business of growing vegetables. So we'll just have to see how things go. It makes it very difficult for a small-scale poultry owner. In fact, I'm sure it's probably forcing a lot of people to cull some of their flocks.
unwrapping a cheese that I made yesterday. It's been sitting in its form overnight without the press too hard on it, just the weight. And yeah, this is actually the second of some cheeses that I decided to make up the recipe a little bit. I've been practicing from David Asher's book, The Art of Natural Cheese Making, for a few years now. I'm really enjoying doing that, but I just thought I would see what happens when I tweak some things or pull a few different ideas from different cheese recipes from David Asher's book. Just also mixed with what works with my day, like the amount of time that I'm leaving certain things. So this one actually looks quite different to the last one, so clearly I'm not very consistent. But I think the main difference with this one is that I left the curds, I salted the curds and then left them to sit in a little bit of whey that came off of them again, and then milled that. Whereas with the other ones I took all the whey off and then salted the curds, so it was a bit drier. It's kind of squidgy, almost rubbery, and this one looks quite different to the one that I made previously, that I first mentioned. The other one is has a lot more holes in it, because the curds aren't as glued together, whereas this one almost looks more like when I made a gorgonzola style cheese. So it'll be interesting to see what this turns into. For both of them, I salted the curds before pressing, but I've also got a kind of whey brine that I'm keeping in the fridge that I'll be washing them with for the first couple of weeks of aging. As long as I remember. I don't always stick to that, so don't focus enough. But yes, it'll be interesting. Every single cheese I've ever made has been different to each other, so I'm sure it will be something. So yeah, watch this space. I'll try and remember to update you on this cheese. Do the washing up later.
So a few days before Christmas, we were getting a huge amount of rain here in the UK. Rosa noticed that the goat byre was pretty much flooding. The ground was really wet and very spongy, and this is just not ideal for goats or many animals to be in for a long time. And so we noticed there was a huge amount of wet ground around the goat byre, which is where I am just now. And we really put it down to the fact that, one, we didn't have a ditch to the north of the byre, which is where, with the slope of the land, the water comes down to, and also a set of ditches running down the side of the byre. We're very choked up. We haven't cleared the ditches in the 9 years nearly that we've been here, so the large amount of rain that was falling wasn't getting taken away by these choked up ditches. Instead it was kind of seeping out to the sides, which is out towards the byre. So we got a guy in with a small excavator to help clean out this main ditch that runs down the side of the goat byre, and also to dig a ditch along the north side of the byre, just to take away any water that comes down slope, and it either goes away to that side to another ditch or to a ditch on this side. It pretty much puts the goat byre on an island of sorts, because we've got ditches on either side and now to the north. So it raises the byre up away from the water that's getting taken away off of the farm. We'll get the rest of the ditches dug out when we can, but for now this is going to help a lot. So much water. We want to work on our designs for water management a lot more here on the farm. We're very lucky to have a couple of large ponds which absorb a lot of the rainfall. This water is not just water that's coming off of the fields. it is actually the overflow of our large pond, which is way up at the top of the property at the highest point. So it looks like a lot of water, but it's not. It's actually been quite dry recently. Of course, we've got snow melt now, but a lot of this is from our main ponds. The big flock of hens are in our big polytunnel, which is where we had them last year. The polytunnel soils were really poor, so we wanted to bring the chickens in last year for a few months just to add their fertility to the soils in here. But we hadn't planned on doing that this year. We felt like the chickens had done a really good job last year, and we didn't really want to disturb the soil too much. But unfortunately, due to these bird flu restrictions, we've brought them in here again. We haven't got the Chickshaw in here. Excuse me. Noisy. Yep. So we've just given them a roost and a place to lay some eggs. We haven't got the Chickshaw in. That is parked up for the next few months until we can get them out and about again. We're going to bring some straw in for them to scratch through, and also just to protect the soil a bit. You can see that wow, look at this white one up here. Can you see her? She is from a flock hatching from a couple of years ago. They're always a bit more wild, the ones that are actually hatched on the farm. Yeah, look at you. Wow. Alright, I'm not stopping you guys. Do you know how to get down? Oh well, I guess she'll come down at some point. Yeah, we're going to bring in some straw just to protect the soil. They've dug around so much already that you can't actually see where these 3 beds were. This is where we grew courgette last year. We had some crops in here that was for the house, some overwintering chard, which we netted as best we could to try and stop any escapee hens from eating the chard. It's kind of worked, kind of hasn't. There was some kind of late sown broccoli in here, which we're now just feeding to the hens. So yeah, not as we planned, because we didn't want the soil disturbance. We also didn't want the mess that keeping chickens in the polytunnel produces. We'll have to hose it all down in here because they make so much dust from their dust bathing and scratching around that it all clings to the skin of the polytunnel, which if we don't clean it off will reduce the amount of sunlight that comes through. So pros and cons. A big pro is that we're bringing in a lot of fertility into these beds, which will the fertility of the soil would have been exhausted by the courgettes growing through the summer. But they're happy in here, they're dry, they're warm, they're away from the wild birds, which is what the government wants from us right now. Right, I think I'm going to get out of here because these chickens are getting to me today. They just want to... Look, whose vlog is this? Alright. I think she wants to lay an egg. I wonder... Look at her, she's just crept into this calendula. I wonder if we're getting some eggs laid in here. Hello. Aha! Look at that. Oh, well, well, well. Little clutch of eggs. Yeah, she really wants to lay. I'll give her some privacy, but that's interesting. I guess if you lock yourself out by jumping out of your enclosure, you've got to go lay an egg somewhere. So I'll go and pick through them later on. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for supporting us through watching our vlogs. We're really hoping to get a lot more out this year. If you want to support us more, you can head over to our Patreon site. We've got 2 tiers available now on Patreon. Have a look, see what you think. Otherwise, just keep on watching these vlogs because your support is really, really important to us. All the best from us here, and we'll catch you later.